Thank you. Well, thank you for the introduction. So, yeah, my name's Beth Kimberley, and I've been invited along today to tell you a little bit more about the access to work mental health support service and how it might be able to benefit you if you are struggling with work, and that may be associated with menopause as kind of link the two things up as I go through the slides with you today. So the aim today is to provide you with a detailed overview of the Access to Work mental health support service, which is available to employees and apprentices across England, Scotland and Wales. So I'm going to tell you a few facts and stats around mental health in general, and define the purpose and the aim of our service. I'll describe the eligibility and referral process so that following on from this talk today, you can access it immediately if you need to. And I'll tell you more about the service structure and potential support and interventions so that you know what to expect if you were to give us a call and start that support journey with us. So, support report here is some information from the Thriving at Work report 2017. So, I mean, I imagine that it's probably changed in the last few months because people have been struggling even more so because of the current pandemic and things. But these statistics really show kind of why the service, which I'm going to talk you through, is in place and why it's needed within England, Scotland and Wales. So what it found is that 1 in 4 adults are likely to be experiencing challenges with their mental health at any one time. So if you haven't struggled with your mental health personally, chances are you've known a few people that have. Mental health is the leading cause of sickness absence in the UK, with up to 91 million days lost each year due to mental health related problems, which of course isn't nice for the individual, but there's also a cost associated to that of the economy of £99 billion each year. There's also been a 41% increase in employers have seen a 41% increase in mental health related issues. And although that some people kind of find that staggering and they think, wow, 41%. But from my time of working in mental health for the last 5 years, even within that short time, I see students improve because they really want to start supporting their employees and things. So the way I see it is in a positive light. I see that people are becoming more open and honest around what they're struggling with and why they might be off work, and approaching that conversation a little bit differently with their employer. So this is a service which you yourself could use, or your team leader or just colleagues or even family and friends, and it's something that you could access. It's something that you could all access if eligible. So keep that in mind as I go through today. So Remploy have been delivering support for people with health conditions and disabilities since 1945. People might recall our factories and our branches on the high street to help people to find employment. But the service which I'm going to talk you through today is a support service which is there to help people to stay in work and to stay in jobs that they've already got. So it's to promote sustainable employment. And it's all funded via the Access to Work mental health support service. So if you've never heard of Access to Work, they are a Department for Work and Pension scheme who provide funding in the fact to anyone who may be struggling at work because of a health condition or a disability. However, when it comes to mental health, they fund Remploy to support people for 9 months to get on top of their mental health and to manage better within the workplace. So typically you may have gone to Access to Work before to get some assistive technology in place or taxis to work, and things like that. But when it's mental health, we provide mental health support. So what that support looks like is it's vocational support. So it's not there to provide clinical counselling to anyone, and people don't actually need to have a diagnosis of a mental health condition, which I'll go on to talk about. So it could be, it could be that you've always managed your mental health quite well, but perhaps as you've kind of gone through those natural changes of menopause, you've found that there's a lot more anxiety associated with those changes and things like that. So you might have never been diagnosed with anxiety, but something in your life is perhaps triggering a different response within you at the moment, and that would be absolutely fine. Because we're not providing treatment, we're helping people to look at the things which they're finding challenging at work, such as it might be attending work, it may be on their duties and responsibilities, could be relationships at work, and helping them to put work-focused solutions in place to overcome those challenges. So the support that we offer is completely confidential. We're not there to, although we work closely with occupational health, HR, and many other departments which are supporting people on a regular basis, under no obligation to go back to those departments and kind of say, this person signed up to the service this week and this is their mental health condition. Although we do fully encourage it. So if someone is struggling at work because of their mental health, it's important that we do try and attempt to speak with the employer with someone's consent, as if they're having those challenges at work, it's usually going to help to get the employer involved. As it is vocational support, we're not there to replace occupational health services or an employee assistance programme or any other wellbeing support that you've got in place. We're hoping to complement those services, and hopefully as I go through this today, you'll kind of see where we fit in within the different support services which are available. So we support people with many different mental health conditions, or people that are struggling with different more mental health concerns rather than diagnosed conditions. The most commonly disclosed to us, as you might expect, as they are more common across England, Scotland and Wales, are anxiety disorders and depression and work-related stress. However, we do support people with many other mental health conditions such as post-traumatic stress disorder, eating disorders, or it could be something like psychosis. If someone is having, if someone's got one of those mental health conditions, it's absolutely fine. In relation to any mental health condition, as long as someone understands that we're only there to treat the vocational element of their but look after the vocational element and not provide treatment, then that's the main thing. We support people in public and private sector, so all different types of job roles, and as I say, all different mental health conditions. And people come to us at different stages. So you could have a new starter that's just disclosed their mental health to you, and you want to kind of get some support in place from the offset, or you could have someone that's been signed off work for quite a long time, and you need someone to kind of come and troubleshoot and help get them back to work a little bit quicker. Or it may be that you've got someone that has kind of been struggling at work slowly for quite a long time, and you want us to kind of come in and help. So it's not black and white as to when to refer. It's just kind of when it's going to add the most value to that individual, as it's 9-month support, and you'll get to see how that journey is laid out shortly. We've supported since the service launched in 2011, and that's all achieved by the work of our vocational rehabilitation consultants, VRCs, and they're experts in supporting people with mental health conditions and many other health conditions as well. So they've got a wide knowledge around health and well-being. They are based all across the UK, and the view is that you would have a VRC that's based locally to you in order to deliver on face-to-face meetings. And it's also important that we try and ensure that you have the same VRC throughout the whole journey with us. So it's not the sort of service where you call up and speak to a different person each time. You would speak to the same VRC and you'd have their phone number so that you can. The final point on this slide states that there's no financial contribution required from the employer or the employee, which is great, because what it means is that following on from this today, if you think you could benefit from this service, you haven't got to go to your manager and get any sort of sign off. You haven't got to use your own personal funds to kind of put the money up front and claim it back or anything like that. It's all fully funded by Access to Work, and that's actually something which is slightly different to the wider Access to Work scheme, which if you've ever used them before, they may say that they'll only fund part of an adjustment that you're requesting, perhaps because of the size of the organisation or the cost of it. But with this service, every single person that comes through and is eligible would be fully funded for support. So on to the eligibility then. So if you are thinking, oh, this sounds like a really great service, then you've just got to keep two things in mind. So the first thing is that someone must be in paid employment. So for NHS trusts, I suppose the biggest thing is that we can't support any kind of unpaid university placement students, but we could support we could support people who are coming through to you via like bank agency staffers. We can support temporary employment. So we can support any hours, temporary roles, self-employed individuals and apprentices, and people who are attending work or signed off sick. So it doesn't matter how long someone's been signed off sick for. We can support them on the programme as long as they've got that contract of employment for us to help them to return to, as we don't help people to find new jobs on this programme unless it's part of an internal redeployment process. The second part of the criteria is to either have a mental health condition or be presenting symptoms. So that kind of expands on what I mentioned a moment ago about there not needing to be a diagnosis. And at times people are just struggling with their mental health and what they might consider to be a temporary basis. So it could be because of the current pandemic, or it may be because of sorry, just got my headphones there. So it might be that you've not got to the point of speaking to your GP and getting a diagnosis, but as long as someone is struggling with their mental well-being in general and it's affecting within the workplace, then we can support them on this programme. A mental health condition might not be someone's primary health condition either. If someone has, say, someone might have chronic pain, or they may have a neurodiverse condition, or it could be a long-term health condition such as Parkinson's or MS, they can come through to this service, and mental health might be secondary to that. And I suppose that kind of links in with menopause as well. So when you're going through those changes in association with kind of the mental health concerns, might just be a really small aspect of kind of what you're going through at the moment, but it might, that mental health difficulty at that time might be triggered by the menopause, and that's absolutely fine. We can try and support you with that. And I suppose one of the biggest things that we do is kind of help you to get to know you, can get a bit better, help you to disclose that to like a line manager and have that discussion with them if that's something that you haven't done, and kind of help you to have what might be a challenging conversation. And that also links in with how triggers might not be linked to the workplace. So by no means does the reason that you're struggling at work have to be because of work. It could be because of things that could be in relation to your health. It could be in relation to things going on at home. But the main thing for us is that you are having some form of workplace related difficulty, as we're offering workplace focused solutions. So there does need to be something there for us to help you to overcome. So if you would like to refer to the service and have someone to talk to on a regular basis to work through your workplace related concerns, then it's all self-referral. So you will this is being recorded, so you'll be able to kind of reflect back on these phone numbers and see and retrieve those. But if you want to make a note of it, it's 0300 456 8114. So that's our confidential helpline, where you would speak to someone in our support centre based in Leicester, who would check your eligibility and take details for your referral. If you're not comfortable speaking over the phone, then you can also email us on the address below, and we can either speak to you over email, or we can arrange a call at a time convenient to you. So it is mainly self-referral. However, another option for referring is kind of, you can refer on someone's behalf with their verbal consent. So this isn't just for managers. It could be that you want to refer a friend or something like that, and with their verbal consent you could give us their name and phone number, and then we would give them a call, so they're waiting for the call rather than having to make that call themselves. So it just makes it a little bit more accessible, and it helps them to take that first step in accessing support. So when you get through to someone in our support centre at Leicester, they will, as mentioned, they'll check eligibility and check you understand the service and that you're interested. And if you are, then we'll take a brief description of your job role, duties and responsibilities, a description of kind of your mental health concern or the difficulties that you're experiencing at the present time. We will ask how that's mainly affecting you at work. Are there responsibilities and targets that aren't being met? Are you perhaps on a performance improvement plan, but it might be that you're on a performance improvement plan, but you've not even told your employer about kind of difficulties that you're having with your mental health, and you might need someone to help you to have that conversation. So we will ask you kind of how much your employer is aware of, and if they are, what have they already put in place for you, or what kind of understanding do they have of what you're going through. So that's kind of measuring what point you're at in your journey with getting some support in place for your mental health. We'll always ask you if you have a clear idea of any help you need. So from these sessions that you've been on, you may have learned about some support or adjustments that might benefit you in the workplace. And it could be that you tell your VRC about those, and we're kind of led by you on trying to get those in place. Or it may be on the other hand that you have no idea of any of what could be put in place to help you, or things that you could even do for yourself in regards to kind of self-help and personal coping strategies. And that's there to offer advice and guidance as well. So by no means when we call you up are we expecting you to have all the answers, but we're very much happy to be led by you as well, as long as we feel that would be achievable within the 9 months on programme with us. At this stage on the call, we would also take national insurance number or individual learning record number for an apprentice, and that's just for funding purposes. So if you or anyone that you're recommending calls us up, then please ensure that you've got that NI number to hand. So when you come onto programme with us, the first thing that we will do, so we've taken the referral details, and then we'll assign you to work with your local VRC. The VRC will then that's to get to know you a little bit better and develop a support plan. So that support plan gets sent to Access to Work, and it essentially says, this is what you're struggling with at the moment in relation to work, and this is what we can do to support you. It could that report is, as I say, sent to Access to Work, but we don't send it until we've reviewed it with you in your first initial meeting, kind of normal circumstances, and would be a location of your choosing within 30 days of when you first called us up. The only difference at the moment is that all of the face-to-face meetings on this programme are taking place remotely. So we're having either phone calls or video chats with people on a regular basis instead of that face-to-face contact at the moment. But we will we'll be moving back to face-to-face contact as it's safe to do so, and kind of advised by Access to Work that they're happy for us to. As I say, it would usually take place at a location of your choosing. So if you was to refer to this service in the future, you could expect to be able to have an appointment at your workplace, at your home address, if you're perhaps signed off work, or a more mutual location if you'd prefer to keep it separate to work at home. We would complete fortnightly telephone reviews to check in on your well-being and review all of the interventions listed on your support plan, and we would allow for an additional meeting between the 1 and 6 month stage, and that's kind of referring to the face-to-face meetings if it's required by the employee or the. At 6 months, you would have another face-to-face meeting with us, and that's where we'd review kind of how you've been getting on through the first 6 months, and seeing what's worked well and perhaps what's not worked so well. And then we will be assessing if you're ready to be transferred for support from our online team. So for the final 3 months, we consider it to be a light touch support period where we make contact with you on a monthly basis, check everything's okay, but if for whatever reason you need some support and intervention from your VRC, they can jump back in and support you. So it might be that you've suddenly arranged a meeting with your employer and you'd really like some support in that meeting to help discuss your mental health in more detail, or discuss adjustments, or raise awareness amongst the team as to how they can perhaps support you. And you might want us to come along. You might be thinking, oh, well, I'm in my light touch support period now. However, don't worry, because we can jump back in and support if it's needed. At the 9 month stage, that's where the service concludes. So Access to Work will only accept a re-referral if there's been a change in circumstances. So for example, if in month 5 or 6 aspects of your support journey, you changed roles, and actually all of the support and intentions that you got in place previously needs to be put in place in a new role, and perhaps we need to have a conversation with a new line manager and help them to talk about your health and things, then that could warrant another period of support from Access to Work. The support service doesn't kind of get extended by 2 or 3 months. It would be a whole 9-month support period again. So it's just kind of checking that that's something that you do require. So on the screen here, you can see just a few of the support and interventions that we may be able to help people to put in place. So although everyone's 9-month journey with us is the same in terms of timescale, so kind of 6 months intense support, 3 months light touch from a VRC, what we do during that time will really vary from individual to individual. So it could be that we are helping someone to get to know their health a little bit better. So we might look at a wellness recovery action plan, look at early warning signs and triggers. So looking at really kind of assessing, what is it that makes you anxious during the working day? It may be accompanied by something like a stress risk assessment, or just really getting to know what it is that perhaps triggers a negative response within you and causes you to feel perhaps a little bit more unwell. We'll do psychological wellbeing and self-esteem assessments at the start and at the end of the journey. So it's a really good distance travel tool for you, but it's also a really good talking point at the beginning to see if we need to help people to build their confidence levels or build their resilience levels. So we would integrate some coaching on a fortnightly basis around those things. We have lots of self-help resources on our online wellbeing platform. So when you do come onto program with us, one of the things that we'll usually do in that first face-to-face meeting is introduce you to this online wellbeing platform and make sure that you know this platform that's available 24/7, and it's got, as I say, lots of online resources such as mindfulness, all of our mental health and stress resources, wellbeing in general. So you've got stuff on there for healthy recipes, goal setting. It may be that you want to stop smoking or increase exercise levels, and trying to tie in that whole wellbeing piece, as we know that it is closely related to mental health. And on the bottom of the left hand side here, you can see it says employer guidance for reasonable adjustment. So helping people to have those conversations with their manager around their health. So as mentioned earlier, although this is a mental health support service, there are often lots of other things going on. So whether it be a long-term health condition, as I mentioned earlier, such as something like Parkinson's, which may have physical symptoms. It may be that you're going through the menopause at the moment. It may be that you've had something go on outside of work. Your partner might have lost their job, and it might be putting a lot of financial pressures on you. And there's not always circumstances in place, but there is always we can always help you just to have that conversation with your employer and to help you to explain your current circumstances to them, so just kind of giving you a helping hand whilst you're going through that difficult time. We can also help you to apply interventions that have been recommended by occupational health. So occupational health may have listed something, occupational health report, or HR may have given some advice and guidance for a return to work plan. And we can kind of help be that middle person that speaks to your line manager and hopefully speed up the process of getting you back to work if that's something that you want. We also engage with the wider Access to Work scheme if somebody needs additional support from them. So they provide things such as travel support, holistic work assessments, in relation to mental health, and it's something we can list the support of Access to Work on our original support plan. So if we're supporting someone with, say, anxiety and epilepsy, it may be that we could put travel support to explore travel support to see if we could get them some taxis to work if they struggle on public transport. Or you may have someone who has dyslexia and requires a workplace assessment to see what assistive software they might benefit from in order to ultimately relieve, say, stress and anxiety within the workplace day to day. So we can look at the wider Access to Work scheme, and we will also signpost people to other support support where it's appropriate. So the VRCs will, once we start working closely with an organisation, they'll really get to know what's on offer. So it might be that they signpost people to an employee assistance programme that often offers short-term counselling or out-of-hours 24/7 helplines that may be able to help people with a wide range of issues. It could be that we encourage someone to speak to their GP about their health. As we can't provide clinical advice, if people are kind of reporting to us that they need some support with that, we'll encourage and motivate them to do so. And that also goes for other organisations that might be able to help. If someone's recently had a bereavement, we could signpost them for some bereavement support, or it may be that someone has got debt problems, perhaps because of the current circumstances, and it may be that we can into some more bespoke organisations that can help them. So during those fortnightly review calls, we're probably going to be having conversations like, okay, before your next call, why don't you explore the work that the X organisation does? Why don't you explore this document on the online wellbeing platform, and we'll support you with that during the next call. So we're constantly supporting people before their next coming up, so they know what's happening. On the screen here, you've just got a few of the coping strategies that we support people with. So it could be that someone's struggling with dealing with change. It could be time management. It could be taking instruction. Treatment of medication, management of medication and treatment. People will often say, well, you're not a clinical service, so how do you do that? And sometimes it's as simple as helping someone to disclose a health condition where they might have to take some time out to take medication, or perhaps attend therapy and things like that. I mean, I've supported many people before with, say, diabetes, for example, and as it's quite a common condition, people assume that it's mainly outside of work, but actually people do need to have enough time in their day to ensure their sugar levels are kept up, and that they've got a private space to take medication if they were to need to, and perhaps not want to take it in front of other people in case they didn't want to speak about it with them. So there's lots of little things to look at in regards to management of treatment of medication that isn't offering clinical advice.
It's Carla, Beth. Sorry, just in the interest of time,
Yeah.
Are we sort of okay to try and move towards some sort of questions and answers?
Yeah,
We've got
no,
this
that's
session
fine.
booked until 1:15 only, and I'm keen that there's a few questions in the chat box.
No, it's fine. I'll skip the
Lovely, thank you.
I'll skip the feedback slide. You can have a little look at that if you listen to it on the look at that on the recording or the slides that get out. But just for now, I'll leave that up and I'll go through a bit of a recap with you. So if you start having to think of any questions you've got, you can put those in the chat box or raise your hand. But essentially, it's 9 months vocational mental health support for anyone who's in England, Scotland and Wales, struggling with their mental health at work. And it doesn't matter what's triggered that health concern. It could be external to work, it could be another health condition or something that's going on within your life, and we can support you to get workplace focused solutions via a 9-month tailored program for you, where you receive fortnightly contact from your VRC, and usually free face-to-face meetings, which will be moving back to as soon as it's appropriate to do so. So I would be happy to take any questions that you've got now. I'll leave my details on the screen here in case you want to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to deliver something like this to your organisation specifically, if you'd like to make it a little bit more widespread, so